Today I'm going to be reviewing the Schneider Charge. It's a 48 amp electric vehicle charger that comes available with either the J1772 or the NACS J3400 charging connector. The unit also has intelligent load management capability. So you can install this in your home if you don't have the capacity to install a 48 amp charger. We'll get into that a little bit later, but that's one of the unique features of this new unit from Schneider. And Schneider is no stranger to electrical components. Schneider Electric is actually one of the largest suppliers of electrical components here in the US. Chances are there are devices that Schneider has made in your home right now. They own the Square D line of service load centers and circuit breakers. They also make all kinds of switches and timers and electrical devices. So yeah, they're no stranger to electrical components. But I have reviewed chargers from very large companies before, and just because they do some things right doesn't mean they understand electric vehicle charging. So I am really interested in finding out if Schneider got EV charging right or not. We're going to find out because this is my full comprehensive review of the Schneider Charge. Before we get into the review, let's open the box and see what comes inside. State of Charge is powered by Qmerit, North America's premier installer of electric vehicle charging equipment. After I've helped you decide which charger to buy, follow the link in the description of my videos and have Qmerit install it. And if you do follow that link, Qmerit will waive the $150 installation deposit. But this is an exclusive offer for State of Charge followers. So in order to get that offer, you must follow the link in the description of my videos. On the side here, we have the charging cable and connector. It's interesting to note that this is not tethered to the charger. Usually, this cable is attached to the charger. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. It's got a long 25-foot cable, and you can see here I have the J1772 connector. Schneider also sent me one with the NACS connector, which I may introduce later in the video. I'm not really sure. There's really no need to. The units are going to perform exactly the same, but for demonstration, I may unbox that one a little later. Then we have the Schneider Charge charging unit. On the top here, we have the mounting bracket. This goes on the wall, and then the unit itself screws into it. Below that, we have these two current transformers, or CTs. Those are for the intelligent load management feature. Next to those, we've got 3 sets of 2 screws. The 2 small screws on the top and the 2 long screws on the middle are used to attach the charger to the mounting bracket. The 2 screws on the bottom are used to secure the bracket to the wall. Up here on the top is a homeowner's information postcard. Below that, we have the cable gland. Below that, we have the safety information brochure. It's not an installation guide. For that, you have to scan the QR code on the top of it. Up here on the top is an advertisement for Qmerit, my channel sponsor. And with this card, you can get $100 off the installation of this Schneider Charge unit if you go through the instructions on this postcard here. And below that is the drilling template so that you could mount the bracket on the wall. All right, so let's take a look at everything. First up, we've got the cable and the J1772 connector. It's a 25-foot long cable that's nice and thin. I measured it to 15 millimeters, which is one of the thinner cables that we've reviewed here. It's got a cap for the end of the J1772 connector. It's a nice connector. It feels good in my hand. There's sort of a rubberized grip on the inside here, which is good. It's got a nice locking tab on the top. Definitely feels like a good quality connector. Here's the body of the unit. It's a small unit, nice and compact. It's kind of similar to Tesla wall connector, no? I mean, in shape. So maybe a little bit taller than the wall connector, I think. But other than that, it's very similar in size. You know, it drives me nuts sometimes when I get these chargers and I open up the box and the thing's huge. They don't need to be that big. Hello, Ford. Although that is a bi-directional charger, so there's a little bit more stuff in there. It still didn't need to be that big. Okay, and here's the mounting bracket. And the way this goes is it attaches, well, first this is going to attach to the wall, and then it goes in the back like that, and you have 2 screws on the top that are the long screws, and on the bottom that go in the side are the 2 small screws. And these are the CT devices. These are for the intelligent load management feature that this unit has. And that's a very important feature that more and more units are starting to come out with. And that allows you to install this even if you have service at your house that isn't a lot of power. Like if you have a 100 amp main or 150 amp main, you could still do charging at 48 amps because the unit will communicate with the CTs in your service panel and it will intelligently manage your power. It'll only give the charger the amount of power that's available at any given time. So you don't have to do a service upgrade. Let's say your panel was mostly full and you really could only spare another 20 amps with a load calculation that was done. You'd have to do a whole service upgrade. But now with these devices that do intelligent load management, you install it, you pair it with the unit and the app. And then what'll happen is if you plug in your car while there's a lot of electric being used in your home, your central air is on, all these other devices, and there's not a lot of power left, your car will get whatever's left over. It'll get the small amount of power. But then a couple hours later, you go to sleep, you turn all the lights off, you power everything else down. Now your house has more power available. It will automatically increase the charging rate for your EV. So this is a great advancement that the industry has had in the last couple of years, whereas just 3 or 4 years ago, you would have had to done a complete service upgrade, which costs thousands of dollars. But now for $700, you've got it all. You don't have to buy anything else. Everything's included in here to do the intelligent load management at your home. Super deal. Okay, this is the cable strain. I suppose that's for this cable here. And we talked about everything. This is the template to drill. And the rest is just paperwork, basically. These are the screws here. The one thing that I want to point out that's interesting is the cable doesn't come attached to the unit. The only other charger that I've reviewed, and I've reviewed a lot of chargers, where the cable didn't come attached to the charger itself is the ChargePoint Home Flex. Everything else, the cable always comes tethered to the unit itself, and you only have to pipe in the power. So with this, you've got to connect both. And Schneider strongly advises against homeowners doing it themselves. Hire an electrical contractor to install this unit. Make sure everything is done right. I always recommend a contractor on the Q-Merit network. They've been fully trained on electric vehicle charging equipment. They know what they're doing. They do it right. And they're partnered with Schneider with installing this unit here. And if you use this, I think there's a QR code on the back, you save $100 off the installation. So it's a good deal. It's, Q-Merit does good work, and it's done correctly and you're not going to have a problem. It's a lot of current that passes through these units when you're charging for many continuous hours. And if you don't do things right, bad things happen. As you can see with my Recharge Rescue series that I have here on State of Charge, where I go to homeowners' homes and fix the problems that they have that were done by substandard work. Many of the times it was licensed electricians. They just did it wrong. Sometimes it's a homeowner that does it themselves also, which is not advised with electric vehicle charging equipment. So, if you get this unit here or any of the units I review here, I definitely recommend calling Q-Merit and having them install it. It's going to get done right, any event. Okay, before we start the review, let's take a look at the Schneider Charge's key features. The unit costs $695. The dimensions are 15.4 inches by 6.9 inches by 4.1 inches. It's a 48 amp charger that can deliver up to 11.5 kilowatts to your electric vehicle. It has a 25-foot cable that I measured to be 15 millimeters in diameter. It's available with either the J1772 or NACS, which is the J3400 connector options. The enclosure has a NEMA 4 waterproof rating. It is capable of intelligent load management. You don't need to buy anything else. Everything comes in the box for you to set this up to do intelligent load management. The operating temperature is -22 degrees Fahrenheit to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. That's -30°C to 50°C. It is ENERGY STAR rated. It's UL listed. It comes standard with a 3-year warranty, and it is made in India. Next up, we're going to take a look at the installation process for the Schneider Charge. Now, as I mentioned just before, this is for a licensed qualified electrician. Have an electrician come pull a permit, have it inspected, make sure everything's done correctly. I'm really just showing this so you can see what the process is. This isn't to inspire people to do self-installs. One of the worst decisions you could make is self-installing your electric vehicle charging equipment. I've seen so many problems with this, but I do this demonstration just so you know what entails the installation process. Okay, so First up, let's take a look at what I put on the wall. I put the template on the wall for the mounting bracket. It shows you exactly where you can drill your holes. It has 6 potential places where you could drill the holes to mount the bracket. You don't need all 6 for sure. You definitely want to try to land it on a stud though, because the unit and the cable together is pretty heavy. And there's sometimes where you might be tugging on the cable a little bit to reach far, and it'll pull right off the wall if you don't have it grabbing onto a stud or something strong. So definitely see if you could have a stud finder or know exactly where the studs are. Drive the screws into a stud so it's on the wall nice and tightly. Because I have this slot wall system, I'm not going to demonstrate drilling into the holes. That's not how I do things here. I do things with the hanging brackets, which we'll get into next. But just wanted to show you this is what it looks like, and this is where you drill your holes. You can only drill your holes in those locations for the mounting bracket. Otherwise, when you try to put the charger onto the mounting bracket, the screw heads won't be flush because the back of the unit here has these cutouts where the screws would go. So make sure you follow the template there, and that's where you attach it to the wall. Okay, now for the unit itself. I mentioned earlier that the cable isn't attached to it. So we have to attach that, or your electrician has to attach that. We'll do that in a second. But one of the things I also noticed is there is no opening for your power supply, for your conduit. First time I've ever seen a charger come like that, where there is no opening. Now there is an opening for the cable, and that comes under this sticker. You peel the sticker off. Oh, it ripped. Well, it's ripping. But the idea is to peel the sticker off. There it is. And now you can see that hole. That's where the cable is going to go in, and we're going to use this here to attach it so that it's watertight and not going to pull out. So, but as far as the power goes, there's no openings. There are a bunch of locations though. There's actually 3 different locations. You could pipe it in underneath the charger, which is how most people do it. You could pipe it in from the back here, which is even better, like I did here with this Tesla wall connector. You notice there's no conduit for any of the electric. I came right out of the wall into the back of the unit. Or you can do it on the top. Now, there's markings there where you would drill a hole through. It's not like where you'd pop it out yourself. You've got to drill a hole in the unit. And you got to be careful that you don't go in and hit anything. So, you know, I'm going to open up the front so I can see what's behind it before I start drilling anything. And I'm going to do it from the bottom. You know, the power is going to come right up from the bottom. But they give you 3 potential locations to bring your power in. I would not put it in on the top because there is no connector holster or cable management system that comes with this unit. You have to just wrap the cable around the top of it unless you buy a connector holster, cable management off of Amazon or something. There's plenty of them out there. Otherwise, you're just draping this around the top and there's nothing to holster this connector with. You have to put the cap on it, which I recommend. actually recommend, if you do buy this unit, buying a remote connector holster. You can buy them on Amazon for like 15, 20 bucks. There's a bunch of them. The Electron one actually is a pretty good one. And that way you don't have to keep putting this cap on. You could just holster the connector against the wall and you're fine with it. You could even locate the connector and the holster wherever you want. Like you can mount the charger on the wall here and then put the connector holder on the side of your garage, right where your charge port is, and just run the cable around the perimeter of the garage to that. And then when you open your charge port door, all you have to do is grab the connector holster because it's right on the wall there and plug it in. That's a convenient setup. But in any event, I would do that. I wouldn't just drape this over. And I don't recommend just leaving this hanging over the charger without putting the cap on, because dust and particles, and it could even be water. I don't know what you do even if this is inside your garage. You might work in your garage like I do, and there's all kind of airborne contaminants. They get in these pins and over time can foul them. So if you're not using a connector holster that protects the end of the connector, put the cap on it and keep when it's not in use. Okay, so how do we get in this? There are 6 screws on the front. I'm going to remove those now, and then we'll take a look inside. Okay. And one thing to note, I like it when the screws are attached to the cover so you don't drop them. See these? They're not falling out. Very good. Another thing I will note when I'm opening it up, I always pay attention to the gaskets in the cover of the chargers. This is a very good thick gasket that really compresses a lot, and it's in a groove. There's a groove that outlines the charger. So this does have a NEMA 4 rating, which is very good for weatherproof rating, for dust intrusion and water. So this can be mounted outside in pretty much any harsh climate, snow, driving rain, anything. This is fine for an outdoor installation in pretty much any conditions. Okay, let's take a look what we have inside here. Okay, now I kind of get why they give it to you. They give you the cable. ChargePoint does this also, and they have these lever style connectors where you really just have to put the wires in and then snap the connector down, and it pinches the wire in there. So they make it really simple. The only thing that I worry about that is, will they fail? They shouldn't. Although I did, on my last recharge rescue up in Bainbridge Island, Washington, we had to replace the ChargePoint Home Flex because one of these failed and it wouldn't attach to the wire. And that was only the second time it was used. It was used during the initial installation, and then when we disconnected the wires to run new wires to it, the spring loading failed and wouldn't connect. So that's a little bit of a concern. I'm not saying that would be the case with this. This could be engineered much better than the ChargePoint one, or the ChargePoint one might have just had a freak failure. So that's not an indictment. But this does make installing it a lot easier, because you basically just stick the wires in and push the lever down and it's connected. Okay. So what else do we have in here? You can see on the bottom here where this cable is going to come up through, you got to loosen up this clamp here. Slide the wire in and then clamp down on it, and then this cable strand, matter of fact, I'm going to do that now. This goes in here, and then this gets attached, and feed the wire through. And lastly, reattach the white cable clamp that holds the cable in place so it doesn't pull out of the body of the charger. The wires for your cable land here, and then the power feed lands over here. And where's the communication? The control pilot. Okay, it plugs in here. This little plug in here that's on the cable for the connector, that's the control pilot line, and that plugs in right there. So that obviously is going to reach and be fine. Okay, so I am going to first install this cable. I didn't know if I should drill the hole for, matter of fact, yeah, I'm going to drill the hole for the power supply first, and I'm going to drill on the bottom. As I mentioned, there's a lot of room here. The top, I don't really, you're really close to the circuit board up there. I'm sure you could do it, but I don't want to do a top power feed anyway. So let me drill this now, and then we'll come back and hook the cable up. All right, well, we've got it connected here. As you can see, we're tightened up. I'm actually finger tight on this. I'm going to tighten this up with a wrench in a minute, but for demonstration, we're good to go. I also reattached the cable clamp here, so the cable is nice and tight in there. It's not getting pulled out or anything. So now we have to connect the two hot wires in the ground over here. And then the control pilot plug-in is right here. So let me connect those up and then we'll get started on mounting this on the wall. All right, now that I have the cable attached, I also have the bracket mounted on the wall here. We're going to attach the charger to the bracket. Now to do so, you kind of hook it on the top two. And now, as I mentioned earlier, there's 4 screws, 2 long screws and 2 short screws. The long screws are the ones that attach it on the top, and they go from inside the unit. The short screws attach to the clips from the outside. So let's connect the 2 top ones. Okay, now 2 on the side. Interesting. So far all of the screws use the same driver, the same square tip driver, the number 2, an S2. These are smaller, so I think I got to get an S1. Be right back. And yes, it's the S1. Okay, to one side. Okay, we are attached to the wall. Let me drape the cable over the unit. Now, as I mentioned, this does not have a cable management system or a connector holster, so this is what you got to do. This is going to be draped over. Now, there is a little bevel on the top here to keep the cable from falling off. And it's not terrible to have the cable draped over the top of the unit. That's fine. I'm just not a fan of no connector holster. I'd much prefer having a connector holster rather than having to cap the connector and then kind of just drape it over the top of the unit like that. And then I would, obviously after the power is connected, we're going to put the cover back on and then power it up. I'm not going to go through the process of hooking the power up. I'm going to do that myself now. It's basically just these 2 hots and the ground are going to get landed on here through the opening on the bottom. But again, I don't show installing electrical charging equipment, the actual power hookup, because I advocate for homeowners not to do that themselves and to hire a professional. All right, so I'll be back in a little bit with the unit all connected and powered up. All right, well, I have the unit installed and I've actually been using it now for a few days to charge my F-150 Lightning, my Chevrolet Equinox, a Chevrolet Bolt. My friend charged his Tesla Model Y here for a short period of time, and also a Mercedes CLA that I have on loan for a review. And it's worked flawlessly, no problems with the unit whatsoever. I also downloaded the app. This is a Wi-Fi connected smart charger with an app. I downloaded the app, set it up. That was really easy, just a couple of minutes to get everything set up once you put in all your information. And once you have the app set up, you can enter your local electricity plan in the app so you know how much you're paying for electricity. Once you do that, you can set up schedules if you want to take advantage of low-cost, time-of-use electricity plans. You could view real-time data from the charging session as it's happening. You could also look up historical data of your past charging sessions, see when you charged, how much you charged, and how much it cost over a certain period of time, so you can see exactly what electric vehicle charging costs you. Without that, it's really hard to know. I mean, with gasoline cars, it's real easy to know how much you pay because you go to a gas station and you pay. But when you're charging at home, you really don't know. You kind of know about how much electricity your vehicle is using, but unless you have an app where you could put in your local electricity rate and calculate exactly what it's costing, you really don't know exactly how much it's costing you to charge your EV, unless you're charging in public at a public charger, which costs much more than charging at home. And there's one thing that you need to consider. There's always charging losses. So you can't just say, well, I can go 300 miles on the 80 kilowatt hour battery that my EV has. You're not factoring in charging losses. When you have an app like this that's paired, it figures that all out because it's just metering what's going to the vehicle, not necessarily what's going into your battery. So you'll get the charging losses all baked into that, and you'll know exactly how much it costs for you to charge your EV. And one very important feature that the Schneider Charge has that we need to talk about is its intelligent load management feature that they call SmartAmp. That's their name for that. And this unit here is certified to the new UL standard. It's UL 3141. Not many other electric vehicle chargers that can do intelligent load management are certified to this new standard. There was a previous standard that was UL 916 that most of the other units, and some of which that I've reviewed here before, were certified to. But now there's a new standard, and the new code, the NEC 2026 code now, requires UL 3141 certification in order for you to exclude the amperage that the charger can charge from your load calculation. Let me explain that. When you don't have enough capacity to install a charger, you'll get a load management system with the charger like what the Schneider Charge has. And what that does is it intelligently manages the power in your house so it will never overload your home's maximum capability. If you have a 100 amp service or 150 amp service at your house, you probably can't install a 48 amp charger because you need a dedicated 60 amp circuit. And let's say if you had a 100 amp service, you need to dedicate 60 amps just for the charger, and then the rest of your house gets how much left over. So you typically can't do that without doing a very expensive service upgrade. Now, when the electrician applies for a permit, they have to do a load calculation when they're installing a charger, and that gets submitted with the permit application. And the electrical inspector will review it and make sure that you're not overloading your home's circuit, or he'll say, you can't install this charger. You don't have enough spare capacity for that. That's where these intelligent load management systems for the chargers come into play. But the previous standard, the UL 916, it wasn't very precise. It was kind of ambiguous, and electrical inspectors sometimes had a problem with them. I actually had problems installing load management chargers at people's homes where the electrical inspector didn't want to pass it, and I had to do a lot of research for him and kind of hand him the information that the charger isn't going to overload the circuit even if there's a power outage or if the Wi-Fi goes down. But now with the new UL 3141 standard, that standard is set. So if the unit is certified to 3141, the power that the charger is going to provide to the car does not have to be included in the load calculation. The electrical inspector will look at it and say, okay, this is certified to UL 3141. It's fine. They can install it in this house. They don't need to have any extra capacity. If it's not certified to 3141, even if it has a load management system, the electrical contractor has to factor in the maximum amperage that the unit can provide, 48 amps, which you would need a 60 amp dedicated circuit. It basically defeats the reason to have a load management system because it cannot be factored into the load calculation. I hope you're all following me here. So if you do get a new electric vehicle charger with intelligent load management, I think the Schneider's a pretty good choice right now, but if you don't like this unit, you want to get another one, make sure it's certified to UL 3141 or you're going to have problems with it getting inspected. Now, not all of the states have already adopted NEC 2026. Some states lag years behind with what version of the NEC code they adopt. but it's coming. And eventually all the states will have NEC 2026 adopted, and an electrical inspector won't pass it. Even if your state hasn't adopted NEC 2026, the electrical inspector, the AHJ, authority having jurisdiction, they call them, he can set the standard. He can say, I know this state hasn't adopted the new NEC code yet, but I've done my research on this. And for me to pass your charger, it has to be certified to UL 3141. So just understand that if you are getting load management systems, which are fantastic, they save you thousands of dollars. You don't have to upgrade your home's electrical service, but make sure it's certified to the new UL 3141. This was the first charger to be certified to UL 3141. I think there's a couple other out there now that have already passed that certification, but a lot of them haven't. So just because a charger says it has intelligent load management, make sure it says it's UL 3141 compliant. If they don't advertise that, it probably isn't, but you can contact the company just to make sure, or make sure that they can send you the certification, because you could have problems getting it to pass inspection. I am not going to hook up the load management feature for this review. The review's long enough already. Some people say too long, but that would be a whole nother video in itself, which I may talk to Schneider about and see if they want to do a separate video of me installing it in somebody's home that has electrical service that requires a load management system. So look for that in the future. We may do a separate video just installing it and showing how the intelligent power management system works. All right, with that said, let's start the review. For that, we're going to start off with our cold weather testing. And it's time for cold weather testing of the Schneider Charge. I have the unit in this deep freezer here. It's been in there for 24 hours. This is a commercial deep freezer that gets down well below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's see how cold it is in there right now. Negative 10.5 degrees Fahrenheit. So I've cold soaked the unit because what I want to do is replicate if you had your charger installed outside in the winter hours and you lived in one of the northern states, it gets really cold. You want the cable to be nice and pliable and bendable even in cold weather. Some cables perform better than others. Let's see how well the Schneider's cable performs. You can see I have it wrapped up in these tight loops. I'm going to cut it loose now, and then we'll see how well it uncoils and how easy it would be to use if it was outside in the winter. Okay, so let's uncoil it. Okay, that's pretty good. See that floppable, bendable cable? That's what you want. This cable is negative 10 degrees all the way through, and it's nice and easy to use. So this would be something that's very easy to use during the winter months. See, even putting it back up over the charger, and you can see there's a little bit of ice on the cable. Putting it back up on the charger, that's nice and easy. So this passes, actually gets a very good score for cold weather pliability. Now we're going to do the connector drop test. The connector drop test, I take this frozen connector, you can see here there's still ice on it. Take the cap off, we don't want it protected. Now I'm going to drop it 5 times from about waist high because, you know, if you have an electric car and you charge it, you're going to drop your connector from time to time. So let's see how the connector performs in the connector drop test. Two. Ooh, right on the edge. That was a good one. 3, 4. Go a little higher this time. 5. Okay. The locking tab works fine. No damage. So the Schneider Charge passes both the cable pliability test and the frozen connector drop test. Next up is the extreme heat test. With the extreme heat test, I put a heat lamp on the chargers for 2 hours. I try to maintain a surface temperature of around 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Give it a chance for the heat to really soak through the unit. Then I plug in an electric vehicle that can draw the maximum current that the charger can provide. In this case, I've got a 2027 Chevy Bolt EV. It can charge at 48 amps. So we'll plug the vehicle in. We'll let it charge for 2 hours. I'll leave the heat lamp on the charger to get things nice and hot. What I want to see is the charger continue to deliver full power for the full 2 hours while the heat lamp is on it. This is to replicate if the charger is installed outside in a hot climate area. The sun's baking down on it and you're charging your EV. Some chargers do overheat. They'll derate, they'll lower the charging rate. Some of the real cheap chargers actually will shut off because they just get too hot inside. So let's see how the Schneider Charge does. I'm going to plug in the the Bolt EV that I have here. I've got both an Equinox and a Bolt. I get them confused sometimes. This one's actually on loan. But let's take a look at how hot the surface temperature is now. We are at... all right, let me see. It keeps getting different readings. All right, 120 degrees exactly. I've been monitoring it for the 2 hours, and it's been between 115 and 130 degrees. Now we'll plug the Bolt in, and we'll see if the Schneider continues to charge it at 48 amps for 2 hours. All right, checking in 2 hours later. It's actually 2 hours and 20 minutes later. Lost track of time there. And the unit's been delivering power to the Bolt for the entire 2 hours and 20 minutes, full power, 48 amps. So the Schneider passes the extreme heat test. Now these units always heat up during the test. As you can see here, now we're at 155 degrees is the surface temperature of this unit. And that happens, and that's how hot these units get if they're placed outside in direct sunlight while the full power is passing through them. It's able to handle it without an issue, so the Schneider passes the extreme heat test. Next up is the automatic restart test. I have the Schneider Charge charging my Chevy Bolt EV here now. What I'm going to do is shut the power off to the circuit to simulate a power outage. Then I'm going to turn power back on. What I want to make sure is that the charger re-engages the electric vehicle and continues to charge it. Now this doesn't seem to be a problem with the chargers I've been reviewing lately. But only a couple of years ago, many of the chargers that I reviewed remained in a fault state if power was abruptly cut from them. They didn't re-engage the vehicle and start charging it again. So you woke up in the morning and your car wasn't charged if you were charging overnight. That problem seems to have been eliminated, but I still like to test it with all of the chargers just to be certain. So this is charging the Bolt. Now you can see by the pulsing blue light here. I'm going to shut power off, wait about a minute, turn power back on just to make sure that it continues to charge the vehicle. All right, power is off. There's no light on there now. The Bolt has a little red light on the dashboard. So I'm going to wait like a minute now, turn power back on just to make sure this works. Okay. So I restored power, nothing yet. Oh, now I have the green blinking light. That should go to, I believe, a solid green light, then a solid blue light. And when it has the solid blue light, that means it's communicating with the vehicle and it's going to start charging. Let's see. Still blinking green. This can take a while. Some of the chargers I've reviewed take like 3 or 4 minutes to actually reboot. And some of them do it immediately. Okay, solid blue now. Now that should change to pulsing blue, and that means the vehicle is charging. It just clicked pulsing blue and the vehicle is charging. Now, one thing I will say about that little delay, it seemed like it took about 20 seconds. That's actually good. Some of the chargers that I've reviewed immediately start recharging the vehicle. I mean, I can't even walk from my disconnect switch to here and it's charging. That's not necessarily good because a lot of times when there's power outages, the power kind of flickers. It shuts off, then it turns on, then it shuts off. It might do that for a minute. And what happens then is the charger just keeps trying to charge the electric car. It's just not good for the electronics in the charger. It's not good for the vehicle either to just get power shut off, get power shut off. So actually, I like the way Schneider has incorporated this, where it seems like it has about a 20-second period between the charger getting power and it saying, okay, I can deliver the power now. I feel like a comfortable time has passed. So the Schneider Charge passes the automatic restart test. Well, that's all I have here for the review. The only thing that's left now is my scoring and also telling you my hits and misses for the Schneider Charge. First up, let's head to the ChargerRater for the scorecard. In the cost and value category, it's going to get 1 point for cost. Now, let me explain this. The unit costs $695. So, according to my chart here, it should lose 2 points for that. But the Schneider Charge also comes with the CTs for the intelligent load management system. Now, some other chargers that can also do intelligent load management make you buy the kit to have that feature enabled. Schneider doesn't. It's all included. So what I'm going to do from here on is when a charger includes all of the hardware to do the full intelligent load management, I'm going to deduct $150 from its cost because that's really something that's in addition to the charger itself. So the $695 cost of the Schneider Charge is going to go down to $545. So that's why it's going to get a point there. For the warranty category, it has a 3-year warranty. It gets 3 points. For value, it's going to get 2 points there for excellent. For $695 and including everything that you need for intelligent load management, this is a deal. So it finishes up the cost and value category with 21 points. For power and construction, it gets no points for max charging power. For adjustable power, it gets 1 point because you can adjust the power output through the app. For cable length, it's going to get 2 points. It's a 25-foot cable. For connector, it's going to get 4 points out of 5. For connector holster, it's going to get no points because it doesn't include one. And for temperature sensor and plug, that only applies to the plug-in unit, so it doesn't lose or gain points there. It finishes up the power and construction category with 22 points. Okay, for tests, in the extreme cold weather testing, it's going to get a 5 out of 5. This unit performed very well in our cold weather test, and the cable is one of the best cold weather cables that we've come across. For the extreme heat test, it gets no points there because you don't gain points, you only lose points. For automatic restart, it passed it, so it gets a point. Safety certified, no points. It is UL certified. You can only lose points there. And for Energy Star certified, it gets a point because it is Energy Star certified. And it finishes up the testing category with 22 points. And for the intelligence category, it gets 3 out of 5 for smart charger with an app. It gets no points for power share capable because it's not capable of sharing one circuit for 2 units. For intelligent load management, it gets 3 points there because it does have that feature. Solar charging, it's going to get no points, but that is something that Schneider told me that they're actually working on, and in the future, the unit will be able to do that. And for access control, it's going to get no points because there is no access control feature. You can't stop somebody from using this charger unless you just shut power off to the circuit. And for OPP standardization, it's going to lose 2 points because you can only direct this to the Schneider app, and the company does not have plans to make it available to connect to third-party apps. So it finishes up the intelligence category with 19 points. That gives the Schneider Charge a total of 84 points, which when translated to a 5-star rating, the Schneider Charge gets 4.2 stars out of 5. So 4.2 stars out of 5, not a bad score for this unit. And after using it for a couple of weeks, I'm pretty impressed with it. It's a good, solid, well-made unit. So I guess my question that I posed early on in this review was, can Schneider do EV charging? I'm pretty sure that at this point, yes, they can. Now, this isn't the first unit they've put out. I haven't done formal reviews of their previous generation chargers, but I've used them and they were decent equipment, but honestly, I think this is the first unit that the company is probably very proud of. It's coming in at a good price point, and with intelligent load management feature, this is something that helps democratize EV charging at home because so many people in America have service panels that can't add another dedicated circuit for EV charging. This lets you without spending a lot of money. All right, so the only thing that's left is my hits and misses for the Schneider Charge. Let's take a look at those. Okay, we'll start off with the hits. Robust construction. I can tell this is made by a tier 1 supplier. This is a quality unit that should last a long time. It has UL 3141 certified load management, which is compliant to the 2026 NEC code. And I think it's currently the only EV charger with intelligent load management that actually is UL 3141 certified. Although I haven't checked that, I haven't heard announcements from any of the other companies. And finally, it has a great cold weather cable and a really good connector. All right, for the misses. No connector holster. That's a little bit of a head scratcher that Schneider didn't throw something in the box for you to holster your connector. It also doesn't have the ability to power share among multiple vehicles or exclusively use excess solar generation for your EV charging. And finally, it has no means of access control. So if this is mounted outside of your house, if you can't put it in your garage, anybody can just roll up and plug in their EV. There's no way to limit who uses it in its current form. All right, that's all I have here today for this long review of the Schneider Charge. And I just want to remind you folks, about a week or two after I put out my full comprehensive reviews, which this is, I edit it down to about 10 minutes and I call it my quick charge review. So in about a week or so, I'm going to have a 10-minute version of this review posted here on State of Charge. And if this is your first time here at State of Charge, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thanks for watching.